Hi, and welcome to the THC show. This is the show where we talk about the truths of our world that are not right and bother us a lot to the point where we put the show on. But we do try to find some reasons to be hopeful about the future and to find some mechanisms to make those changes happen. On the show today, happy to have Glenn Wells, 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca, joining me for the 420 session. Jerry Martin, of course, will be here for the Martin Medical Moment. And very pleased today to have as my guest Howard Dejong. He's a board member from Vandu and has a long history of harm reduction and helping people in the ways that we're trying to help them here. So imagine, if you would, a world where you were free from being bullied by anyone but the actual bullies. And if you were being bullied by the actual bullies, there were people there that would help protect you, that were working for you. And that's a world where we would be free. You know, it should be a great world, and we should have it going on here, because freedom from the type of tyranny and dictatorships and other systems of governance that have happened prior to a free democratic system have been very oppressive for a large population in all of those situations. And we've fought hard to rise above that, to get out of that, because the truth of that matter is that it is nobody's right to bully anybody else, whether you think you're the king or the queen or the dictator or the tyrant or whoever you are. You have no right to be hurting anybody or doing anything to harm anybody, just like any other normal person. The only reason you would ever interfere with somebody is if they're harming somebody else. And it's just been wrong for a long time. People have identified themselves as the leaders, called themselves of royal blood, taken over militarily and just said, screw you, I'm tough enough, I'm taking over, and I now own your asses. All that's been going on forever throughout human societies, and it's never been right. It's never been right that people that think they're leaders actually use that power to harm other people and facilitate their own desires at other people's expenses. It's never been right for them, just like it's never been right for anybody to do that. And so we've risen above that over the years and decades and centuries, and come to where we have this free society of democratically operated governments that we elect into these positions, and then they are to serve our interests while we pay them to do that. And if that was the way it should be for us as people, this would be a pretty cool world to live in. This would be, or a country, say, maybe not world, because the whole world isn't there. But if we here in Canada had that going on, we'd be so much head and shoulders above any other place that doesn't have that going on. All these places that have their tyrants and dictators in place, and where people are oppressed regularly. I don't want to mention any names, but China comes to mind, and other places, right? We should have it so much better here. But instead, we're kind of on the same par as those places. What we get to do is elect in those tyrants and dictators for their 4-year terms, and then they come back and try to get reelected and spend our own money trying to get themselves reelected and trying to get the other guys not elected. And it's a system where you can vote for the other party, but they're all working for that same corrupt group of corporate and financial elite anyway. So it's really become quite a farce here, this free democratic society. We all know in this society that it's corrupt, that it's not right. Because, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies almost, and there's some of those dynamics going on. The problem is that if they can get away with corruption and serving their own interests instead of ours, well, then they do. And we've just been lackadaisical in allowing this to get more and more and more out of control, more and more set up on the side of the governing body, where they just have this system going on that they all know about. It's like an old boys club, and they just continue on the same type of gouging and corruption that's been going on from regime to regime. It's never really changed here, and it's not gonna change. There's the other parties that really don't have a chance of getting elected, but maybe if they did, then maybe things would be better, except that, I know that the corporate claws are deep into all of our different structures, and that if there was another party that was going to, have a chance of becoming, the governing body, then they would be co-opted into the corporate agenda themselves, just like it always happens, because these people are not afraid to bribe people. They're certainly not afraid to threaten people, and, that's just the way it is. So we need to do something about that. We need to reset our democracy. We need to make it so that the people that are public servants know that that's their role and what their role is supposed to be. We need to make it so that they're limited by fundamental principles of how they govern that don't allow them to exercise their power in places where they're not just intervening where people are harming other people and where they're satisfying the needs of some other agenda besides the public's. We need to have some type of limits on there that is identified, clearly stated, and entrenched. We need to make it so that the public servants are accountable for what they do. In case you don't know, we live in a world where these public servants can really get away with almost anything. It's very difficult to charge them with corruption or abuse of power or criminally misusing public funds or contempt for the populace. Those are all fancy words that we thought, or I thought growing up, gave us some protections from these people, but they continue to have contempt for the populace, and they continue to abuse their power and criminally misuse public funds. The corruption runs deep. It runs right to the top. They're even blatant about it. They don't care because they know that there's no accountability that can ever really happen to them. That the worst that's probably going to happen is there'll be a big scandal, and if they don't survive the scandal, then they get voted out next time, and then that's it. And that's not right, because crimes against people is what's serious here. And that's what we kind of need public servants for, is to protect people from serious crimes. And when public servants are the ones that are perpetrating those crimes against people, well, we need to have some accountability for that. We have got a long-standing, couple centuries-long evolution of common law principles of trying to get some justice and to put some checks and balances in to make sure that justice is done and seen to be done. And that would say that a person is only guilty when they're proven of having done what they said they were done. It's only a crime if they can prove that they intended to do what it is that they did. And then the damage that's done is weighed, and a cost is attributed to it. And then another side of that set of scales, held by the blindfolded older woman, is where they can put the penalty that balances based on the damage that they can prove that you did. Well, when you're a public servant, you're in a very fragile place. You're in a place where your decisions can impact and influence large numbers of people. And you really need to be true to what's the best for those people. And when you're being influenced by financially elite groups that want their interests protected, that's going to harm the public, well, that's not good. And that influence needs to be stopped. And if it's not stopped, and if the public servants cave to it, then they really need to be held accountable based on that formula of how much damage did they do. Did they intend to do it? Did they know that they were selling out the public for whatever bribe or threat they fell to? When that's proven, then the damage that they did is far, far in excess of what one individual typically does when he damages another individual or group of individuals. Because as I said, that position that they're holding is very fragile. Because they're holding in the palms of their hand or under the signature that they put on that piece of paper millions of people's lives. The best example of that corruption, of course, is the cannabis file, where those public servants have used their power to criminally prohibit or criminally attempt to restrict anybody from growing, selling, or having access to cannabis, with no justification other than that which they made up, the lies that they've been telling forever about cannabis making people violent and insane or stupid and lazy or all the other things that they said it caused, which it doesn't. In fact, cannabis is such a huge benefit to people that it's a real crime just restricting people from having it. And that's what I'm talking about here. I mean, they've impacted the lives of millions of Canadians over the past 100 years. In 1923 is when they brought in the prohibition of cannabis. It's almost 100 years now. And the amount of Canadians whose lives have been severely impacted by that is staggering. The cost to all of those people is uncalculable. So how much damage have those public servants done? Where is that side of the set of scales? Because I can't even see it. It just disappeared through the floor. It is so serious when a public servant abuses their power and the amount of people that are harmed by that. And in the case of the attempt to prohibit cannabis, the millions of people, the billions of dollars, the ruined lives, the incalculable pain and suffering, not to mention just that people couldn't get access to something that could have prevented their pain and suffering, could have given them a happier, better life, economically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of those things that cannabis helps to benefit us with. I've been denied to people for a very long time because the corporate elite doesn't want you to know that you can grow things for yourself that will satisfy those desires, the needs that you have. They want you to think that you have to go to the store and buy them, that they have to be the ones supplying them. And this is all just an illusion of reality. Mother Nature provides for us most of what we want. We can save most of our money if we want to grow things for ourselves, our fruits and our vegetables, our herbs, and especially our cannabis. Especially at the price of cannabis, you can imagine how much money you're saving, even if you just grow 4 plants, which I suggest you grow more than 4. Just to say, screw you, government. I can grow more plants than that because you don't own me, I own you. But grow some plants and see how much value that gives you. Even if the prices weren't artificially inflated to ridiculously high prices, because it's just a plant like any other plant. Even if it was just down there at the same value as everything else and you could go and buy some for $10 a pound, well, I'll tell you, the value you get from that is significant. And to have that denied to people for all of these years because they want to protect government interests is a serious crime against us all. And one of the ways to achieve relief from that corruption is to have our public servants transparent, to have it so that they don't get to hide behind closed doors and we don't get to see how those negotiations go. We don't get to see whether they're being bribed or threatened or not. And they just come out the other side of those doors and announce public policy, and we all gasp and go, how could that be? Well, that can be because money talks. And we need a system that counters that. And the way to do that is to have a real transparency amongst these public servants where they live their lives in a bubble. We get to see what they're doing all the time. They could be wearing like a video camera on their chest for one thing, and then we could have an assistant that has a GoPro or whatever. It wouldn't have to cost much. It wouldn't cost as much as a single bomb, I'm sure, to have a video surveillance of our MPs for 1 year for one MP, much less than the cost of one single bomb that we make. So we should put money towards that instead of bombs, I think. We should have transparent public servants that are scared shitless of not doing what is right for the public because they're treading on eggshells and they're in a very fragile place because they're going to be held accountable if they happen to sell out or cave into a bribe. And we'll try to make it easy so that they don't do that. And we'll try to get a whole different type of person, because we would get a whole different type of person running for public office if we had those types of structures in place. We wouldn't get these crafty used car salesmen that are nothing but a bunch of fast-talking con men that are really, serving other interests besides the public, but they're the ones who look pretty and can talk real nice, and so we vote for them because we don't have much choice on who to vote for anyway. And we wouldn't get those types of people running the show for us. We would get people that really cared. People that cared about the poor people. People that cared about the sick people. People that cared about all of us not being exploited by these financial interests and the corporate elite and the people that will exploit us if they can. And that's why they have, is because we let them, and there's ways for them to do it. If we had good public servants, and if we had a good structure on how those public servants operated, then we could have a system where we were free, where we were not bullied by our politicians, but we felt safe around them and they made life easy for us. In a free country that was truly free, with a democracy that made some sense, that didn't allow any percentage of the population to overrule the rights of anybody in our population, we could have a world where we could thrive, when our children could thrive. We would be economically, we'd be millionaires, all of us, and living like that, and not having to live in fear, and not having to worry about drug gangs and criminals and all those other things, because we'd have a much, much better, saner society. And instead of it being ruled by alcohol and hate, it'd be ruled by cannabis and love. And that's where we need to strive to get to. That's where I'm striving to get to, and I hope you all help me do that. In the news today, and I want to say, by the way, we have come a long way. that there are those who say that the system of governance in Canada is the worst that there is in the entire world, except for all the rest. And that may well be true, but I'm still not happy about it. I'm still not happy that our public servants are really able to work for someone other than me and us, and that we have to face all these different areas of oppression. There's a whole lot of different areas in our society that people are upset about, overtaxation and you name it. And that's because we have a corrupt system that allows for it, because we don't have limited, accountable, transparent public servants. So let's get on that. Meanwhile, good to hear that Ontario is considering the vapor lounges that people are demanding to have, that we absolutely need to have, it's crucial for people to have a consumption site that they feel safe in, because people can't consume in their residences in many cases, and they can't safely even consume on the street based on bylaws and stigmatism that still exists and all other things. So good that they're at least considering that. Too bad that it has to be considered. It should be a no-brainer. We got consumption sites for alcohol all over the place. Hell, we even got consumption sites for the hard illegal drugs. So, and they shouldn't be illegal either, and then we wouldn't have to have the types of places that we do. But anyway, Switzerland is looking to conduct some trials on how they would roll out their legalization. And interesting that they've decided that the cannabis that they're going to use in their trials is going to be all locally sourced organic cannabis. And so that's a first for that. And that should be an example to other jurisdictions as well, as to how they try to figure out how best to get cannabis to the people, not how to restrict it, but to get it to it. There's still, with the Ontario considering the vapor lounges, and even with Switzerland what they're trying, there's still a lot of absolute BS talk about public safety and trying to keep people safe and making sure that kids don't see it and all that kind of stuff. We really need to get that stigmatization and that reefer madness out of our world. There's no place for it. It's completely opposite. People that use cannabis are the smart ones. It's the sane choice. It's the smart choice. And we should be encouraging it, not discouraging it, and not putting out that message that these governments are putting out there, that cannabis is somehow bad, that it's causing public safety issues, that children are in trouble if they get access to it, because none of that is true at all. And they need to stop saying those things. So other than that, I'm happy with some of the movement with respect to these places, but not just that. There is one other thing in the news, and that is the city of Vancouver is helping us move forward with medical dispensaries, and I'm really happy to report that. I'd been pushing for a meeting with some city councillors over the last few months and not having much success, and I was concerned that I was going to come on the show today and tell you that we were really being blocked by City Hall and that they were not cooperating with our efforts to help get medicine to the people that need it. But thankfully I get to say the opposite, because yesterday we were given a meeting with one of the councillors from Vancouver City Council, and it was a great one. Jody Emery joined me with that. A member of the Green Cross who we're partnering with the CSP was there, along with Howard Dejong, my guest today. There it is, 419. Roll them up. We're getting close to lighting them. And Howard is a board member with Van Du, and the four of us sat down with the city councillor and found her to be an ally, that she wants to help us. She has to go through the proper structures of government to be able to do that, but we told her that that wasn't going to stop us from moving forward, and it was a really good meeting, and I think that's very newsworthy. There are other municipalities out there that are doing similar things, and other jurisdictions where the cities can decide what they do with all the different files, and they can decide to allow cannabis to be dispersed and dispensed outside of the government system and contrary to the Cannabis Act. And good on the city of Vancouver, at least this one councillor, for being on our side and trying to move that issue forward. And hopefully we'll get some traction in the coming months and let you in on all that. All right, must be 420. Well, there it is, right there. Hey, Glenn Wells, CannaMatch.ca. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, Neil?
Pretty good. What's
so you
new
got
for
some
you?
good news today.
Well, yeah.
The city there.
Yeah, that is big news. We're going to talk about that in several different segments of the show today.
Cool.
I'm putting on my my Canucks.
Yeah, because we are in first place still.
Who knew?
I know.
Was it 4 or 5 weeks ago now that I said that as long as they were in first place, I'd be wearing this, and otherwise I would just shut up about it. But they're not letting us shut up about it at all, even though they lost 4 in a row.
I know.
They came back and won last night big time.
And that's going to put
really
them right
good.
back up there. And you know what, Neil? I'm gonna make an announcement.
All right.
If the Canucks make it to the first round of playoffs, I'm buying you a jersey.
Oh my goodness!
There you go. I said it live, right? You're going to get a jersey. So
thank you so much.
Then we can root together as they're in the playoffs. All right.
All right. So let me say then that.
So I think it's.
Let me say this
5th.
then.
Yes.
Oh man, I don't know if I can say that. I guess I can't say that.
All right, don't say that.
My financial world is not so great that I can.
Yeah. Well,
think about going to games in the playoffs because those tickets might be just
that
hard
would
to
be
get and very expensive.
I couldn't even do that. But
I want to say that
getting
so
you a
bad.
medium-sized jersey, that's not a problem.
Oh man, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
It was really going to test me a little bit here.
Yeah.
Test my bias a little bit.
Okay.
Because if they'd have lost last night,
yes,
then Edmonton would have had a better winning percentage.
Yes.
But I was still going to wear the scarf and say that they're in first place. I mean, that's how the league shows it.
That's how it is, right?
So, but the bias it would be that if the Canucks were behind Edmonton, 1 point behind with a game in hand, I'd be wearing my scarf because they have a better winning percentage.
Yeah.
So there you go. I got a bias, and that's how you figure it out.
Yeah, that's how it is, yeah. Yeah, wow.
That's
and
good.
you were talking about public servants. I was thinking,
Public
what
servants.
pisses me off is the public servants who are arresting us are now opening up shops. Cops. I seen a post about a cop. He called his shop High Five. It should have been like High 5-0.
Yeah. Oh my God, eh?
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I know these guys busted us for years through freaking hundreds of thousands of people in jail, and now one is like in Parliament. The chief of police from Toronto is now in Parliament.
I'm all for people turning a new leaf. I'm okay with, like Mark Emery's prosecutor coming out after the fact, quitting his job, saying that he believed in legalization and working for that. I'm in favor of these guys saying they were wrong and trying to right that wrong.
Yeah, I guess.
But that's not what's going on here.
Yeah,
they are trying to, they're part of a conspiracy to monopolize and take over the existing market of cannabis that has been here for many decades, and to continue the criminalization of people that would now threaten their financial interests.
Yeah.
It's way worse, Glenn.
Yeah.
I'm pissed about it too.
But
what can we do?
There's some police officers and fire department and ambulance people who do smoke cannabis. I know that. I've met them. I've sold them. I've bought from them sometimes. I know that does happen. And maybe this gentleman is one of those people.
I don't know about which gentleman you're talking about.
No, but
I was referring more to the general movement of ex-law enforcement into positions of power in these licensed producers,
like that bill is a bill
and not advocating for a complete ending of the criminalization and penalties for pot, but doing the opposite
and making it worse.
These are really crappy individuals. They are the scum of the earth.
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person. I don't advocate for violence. And I wouldn't.
Well, it's true.
I won't ever support them. I'll speak against them and exercise my opinion as best I can. But it is, it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of real evil bastards.
Yeah.
Harry Anslinger.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Anslinger back in the day with his Bureau of Narcotics and all the rest of it. That the harm that they have done. There are a lot of nefarious characters over the years that we could identify.
Yeah.
And I was part of what didn't happen yet, but might happen one day, and it was a play that we were going to do.
Okay.
About cannabis, and we were going to call it Pot the Musical. And we had music written, we had a plot there, and the whole works of it, right? And in one of the end scenes, the prisoners are all set free.
Oh, wow, eh?
The prison door is open, and they're flooded out into the arms of their families.
Oh, wow.
And up on the hill,
yeah,
there were the prohibitionists that had put them there and were responsible for all this. And there was that moment in time, where they stop, and they look, and they think, and they could just escort those people into that empty prison. And that's probably even better than what should happen for them. But there is a forgiveness that happens. And I don't know if these people deserve to be forgiven. I don't think so. But it's in the spirit of cannabis, and it's in the love and the warmth and the humanity that cannabis associates with.
Yeah.
That would have been the right thing to do, to say, you're free.
Yeah.
We forgive you.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again. Yeah.
Live a better life. Make up for what you did. But... Punishment, well, I don't know. Anybody who is in favor of cannabis
I did time for pot.
prohibition probably won't be happy with the future, even though we still got some of it going on. But if you don't like cannabis, you're not going to like the future.
No, I did.
You were in jail for pot. I did a night in jail for pot.
I did so many weekends in Mimico and Toronto for marijuana.
Wow.
And then last time I actually got like a 6-month sentence for that. But never any federal time, just provincial time.
I paid
Had a good
fines.
lawyer.
I went to court. I sat handcuffed in police cars and police stations on numerous occasions. I did more than the one night in jail, but the one that really came to mind immediately was when I was 18 years old and pulled over because of insurance issues on my car. And I was concerned about those insurance issues when I was being pulled over, to the point where it didn't really occur to me that there was a paper bag in between the seats of my Volkswagen Beetle and had a bunch of lids of weed, as we called them.
Yeah.
And so we're now outside.
4 ounces.
Yeah. These were $10 lids. And so standing outside the back of the car there, in trouble about the insurance. And out comes the cop with this bag of weed. It wasn't quite like Family Guy where there was blood and guts all over the place, and I found a bag of weed.
And then they break out to that song, Bag of Weed, too.
So my buddy and I, we spent the night in jail.
Yeah.
What have I done here? I put this one down here during the 420 session, and I got this one in my hand because we're talking too much. We should smoke more and talk less.
Are you coming to the protest on Friday?
Yes, I am.
All right, so we'll tell everybody it's at Hetty Fry's office.
Yep, 1030 Denman Street between 1:30 and 4.
Yep,
that's at the coming events at the end of the show. But happy to repeat.
Okay.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah, well, it's
happy
a
to talk
social
about
thing,
it.
right? Yes,
The
it's
more
a
you repeat
social
it, there's people that don't hang around for the end of the show.
Yeah, exactly. Too,
so there's a protest going on, put on by the Victoria's Buyers Club in Victoria at the minister's office to make the point about needing access to cannabis, and that medical dispensaries need to be part of the solution here.
And I think BC needs to start leading the way like they did before, and maybe show the rest of Canada that this can be done with mom and pop stores too. Because now they're all complaining that those big major companies, Aurora and Canopy, are losing money because they didn't know what.
Well, their model can't make money.
No, they can't.
Their model can't make money.
You've got to have some sort of a choice. We have a choice between alcohol. You can make your own beer, make your own wine, or you can buy your own beer and buy your own wine.
Can you imagine if these government licensed cannabis stores had to pay for their own protection to weed out the other stores in competition instead of using taxpayers' dollars to go after people?
I think the government, yeah. I don't even know if the government should tax it. But
we the people want the mom and pop stores. We want access to locally grown, organically grown cannabis. That's what we want.
Yeah.
They, the government, are deciding that we can only have what they allow us to have, and they're going to use our money to keep us from having what we want.
I know.
It's
stupid.
Like, are we upside down here? How did this corruption ever get to be allowed? Like, I don't understand.
Corrupt politicians allow corruption.
I mean, I know we, the people, allowed it, and that's how it happened, That because there was abilities for people to get in and then serve the interests of the people that helped get them in, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But damn it, when are we going to stand up as people, recognize that, you know the one about the frog in warm water, do you?
No.
Okay, if you put a frog into warm water, he'll love it.
Oh.
He'll stay there, and he'll float around in there, and he'll have fun there. That's exactly what he wants. You start raising the temperature of the water, little bit at a time. Colder
or hotter?
Hotter. Raise the temperature of the water.
Oh, raise it, okay.
You can kill that frog. You can boil that frog to death.
Really?
Because he won't notice. He won't notice.
Wow.
He'll just, continue to enjoy the warmer.
So the government's trying to boil us, and we're not noticing it.
Until he's half asleep and can't even think, and then it just happens, and he's gone. That's what's going on here.
Yeah.
Is that we are in basically boiling water. Greta, the child activist that's got all the people upset about.
Thunberg.
She's talking about the house is on fire, people. What are you sitting around for? The house is on fire. And we don't notice that the house is on fire because it's been a gradual thing. We got used to it. We got used to the fire in the corner over there now catching on to the drapes over there. We got used to it. And it's really a sad thing. It's not really our fault, except we are what we are.
Yeah.
But we have been played.
Yeah.
We're being played.
Yeah.
We're being played by people who understand the human psyche. They understand the power of fear.
Yeah.
They understand these things.
Oh, yeah.
And they're driven by greed. They have no morals with respect to who they hurt. They're just looking to have more control and more money than anybody else, and that's what they live for. And we've allowed them to have access to our public servants. We've allowed it to be okay for our public servants to hang around with these people, to have meetings with these people, and to bow to their will.
Yeah.
So we got to do something about it. We got to figure out the ways. It's time. Yeah. It's been time for a long time.
Yeah.
In this democracy, somebody should have reset this thing 40 years ago and said, what limits do we want on our politicians? Because really, they're getting a little bit out of hand.
Yeah.
Well, now they're getting a lot out of hand. When are we going to do this? Who's going to do this? How do we do this? That's something that we should probably think about as a society.
Like a revolt.
We can gradually get more accountability. We can gradually get more transparency. Maybe down the road we can do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not into a violent revolution. I'm not about violence.
Right, no.
I'm into a peaceful evolution.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to have the conversation, and that's part of the way that we get there, is to, as a society, let's start talking about this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not okay that you get an $800 fine, for example, for driving on a clear, dry day in Manitoba on a divided highway, and you're like 25 miles or 30 miles over the speed limit. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not worth $800.
No.
Yeah. So that's just one of a million examples. I don't like parking meters. I don't like lots of things. I don't like government waste. I don't like all kinds of things. And if we sat down as a people and talked about that sort of stuff and really come up with it's simple, easy to understand, not legal speak, but easy to understand ideals for how we expect our politicians to behave.
Nobody ever steps up to do that because the government's got us scared.
I know.
Right?
Oh,
You don't want us to be gone.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's going to happen with this?
I believe you should be afraid of your government, but not like that. Not to the point of cowering.
The law-wise, yes. Yes, the law-wise, to fear your government. But, yeah.
And in the meantime, every once in a while, watch a hockey game. Enjoy yourself.
Root for the Canucks.
Find your balance. Yeah, if you're smart, you'll root for the Canucks. Get on the right side of history on that one. These
if
kids are
any
good.
Canucks out there watching the show after the game or something, or friends of Canucks, let them know that Neil will get a jersey.
I'll be wearing that proudly because they're going to be in the playoffs, and who knows? Maybe they could win a round.
And my number's being retired tomorrow night.
Yeah,
the one I'm wearing.
Wow, that jersey's going up in value.
The Sedins are their numbers 22 and 33 are gone.
They are, yeah.
And
They had a huge impact. We didn't win a cup, but they've had a huge impact, and the impact they've had on Swedish hockey, and even on North American hockey. The cycling of the puck, the communication between the forwards, the way that it's been.
Do you know how they got the 22 and the 33?
No.
They said on the news last night. One was picked second, one was picked third.
Right.
Right.
There you go.
22 and 33
and twins.
That's how they did.
It is going to be looked back upon as one of the most amazing things in history. That a pair of twins could play on the same team from the start to finish of their career and have the impact that they did. That is historic, man.
Forever,
that'll be a forever legend that people will talk about.
Smeal and everything else.
Wow, this is a legend that is. There's very little comparison for twins. For twins to do
two people, yes.
They could play on the same team. That was Brian Burke pulled that off, man. That was a miracle. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
He went and watched him.
He went and watched him
because Thomas Gradine, the scout, had been telling him about the kids. He went over to watch him in a 4-game tournament because he just wanted to get it out of his life. It was like, I'm going to go watch him, then I'll be able to say, I see him. He said before 2 minutes had gone in the first period of the first game, he knew he was looking at something that was going to be special. So that's really good. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, sir.
Next week.
Yeah.
I believe we'll still be wearing the colors.
I do.
We might be wearing them right till the end of the year now.
You got me watching more games now.
Well, don't let it cut into your activism. The house is on fire.
No, yeah.
But we do need the balance.
All right, take care, sir.
During your time off.
All right.
All right. I love the 420 session. Which always leads us into the session, a Martin medical moment, where we get to keep on the cutting edge of what's going on in the movement to get medical access to cannabis like we should have had long time ago, like the Supreme Court of Canada says we should have. Judge Phelan in the Allard decision said that the storefront access to medical cannabis is at the heart of access for medical patients. Yet here we are living in a world where our federal government has so-called legalized cannabis at the exclusion of everybody that was ever involved with cannabis to begin with, except for a few sellouts, and in the process have decided to eliminate medical cannabis completely, shut out and close down all of the medical cannabis dispensaries, and that is just horrible, and we need to get them back. We're not going to stop until we do have them back, and we're here this segment to talk about that fight. It's called the Martin Medical Moment because Jerry Martin was a dispensary owner in Saskatchewan, and I say was because after 4 years of successfully helping people get access to cannabis, they shut him down and closed off his ability to help the 1,000 or so members that he had in a small town with only about 1,000 people living in it. And now that town has gone downhill severely. There's crack shacks that never used to exist there before. There's a reduction in the population. And Jerry has been on the hook for the last 3 years as they continue to dangle his liberty in front of him. And they've already taken away many of his assets. And he's still fighting the good fight. Constitutional challenge coming up. Who knows when? We're waiting for some other things now. That they're just continuing to drag this on. I'm sure they don't want him in court. But he would kind of like to get to court, get it over with, have his day, say his piece, and see where the chips lie. But in the meantime, he comes on the show every week, and we use this segment to update what's going on with his case and other cases. And Jerry Martin, great to see you. Welcome to the show again today, sir.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited, I guess, about the meeting that we had yesterday with the city. That was pretty good. The city, in response to the Cannabis Substitution Project and the High Hopes Foundation, passed a motion brought forward by Rebecca Bly to license and support cannabis dispensing with low barrier access for the opioid crisis, which definitely means it has to be outside of the government regime because low barrier access means low prices.
That's correct.
For the opioid crisis means high dose edibles. Low dose edibles don't work, but high dose edibles certainly do. So that's awesome that the city's going to do that. That motion passed over 3 months ago, and we've been trying to get meetings with the city ever since, and we've been working real hard to try to put together something that the city will respect and license, and I think we're there.
Awesome.
And we got a meeting with the city yesterday, and it went very, very well.
Nice.
So
That's
we'll
good to
see.
hear.
We'll see where that goes. I mean, they still think they got to go through proper procedures. We told them we're going to open anyway, and hopefully you'll help us.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But is there anything new with your case going on?
Not really. I haven't heard.
So tell us
anything.
where we're at then. We're in a holding pattern that is...
Yeah, we're still waiting for Pat's case to get moved up to High Court, which I'm hoping is going to happen this week. So.
Right. Pat Warnicki's in court tomorrow.
Yeah, I believe it's tomorrow. Yeah.
The beginning of a preliminary hearing to look at what evidence is there and things like that. And so if that decides to go and it goes to a high court, then you might or you will be joining his case with yours.
Yeah. His case and one other dispensary case out of Weyburn, I believe.
I see. Very good.
Yeah, so we're just going to share resources, share,
lawyers.
Lawyers. Well, yeah, I've pretty much paid for mine, but it's good to have extra lawyers for sharing. Yeah, so we're gonna share lawyers and testimonials, things like that. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. But there's no date on that yet. They told you a long time ago now that it would be in the spring.
Yeah, well, it's been over 3 years now of waiting and thinking it's going to be in
about
a couple
40
of
court
months.
appearances.
Yeah, 40 now, 41 now, I think. Yeah.
And the last one was they were going to give you a date sometime in spring, and now
I thought it'd be over
we'll
again
see.
this month, but now it's here. I am waiting again. It could
Waiting
be
again.
Who knows?
That's a lot of their strategy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's prosecutors that are booking time, at taxpayers' expense, and they really don't want to face these things in court, I am sure. So, have they offered you any deals?
Yeah, they offered me my 2 BMWs back, my house, my 2 BMWs, the house, the other property, few other things, and all I had to do was 3 months of weekends in BC here. and plead guilty.
And plead guilty.
And plead guilty.
Right.
And
lose other properties that you had, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they want my
lawyers'
property,
fees
and so I didn't take the deal. So now they took
course
everything.
not.
They did release the house which you bought, which went to legal fees. But other than that, I've lost everything else, except for the resort in Peru, the ayahuasca retreat, which has been hard to keep up over the last 3 years anyway. So.
You didn't lose you, Jerry, and they can't take that away from you.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
they haven't lost me. That's for sure.
No.
It's been a tough battle, but overcoming it. So.
Well, I mean, this is just a point in the journey to wherever it's going to go. But, you know,
Yeah.
you and I are going to be talking 4 or 5 years from now about completely different things. And, you know, we'll be looking in the rearview mirror at what happened there. But there's a lot of great things to come yet in the future. We have a lot of work to do yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting to the precipice of legalization. We're not there yet, but I think we're at the precipice. They can't keep doing this very much longer. They're not going to get away with it.
No, they can't hide what they're doing.
No, they're not going to get away
The
with
stocks
it.
are showing that, so.
Well, that too, you know, and Pat, you know, they're poking the wrong bear. Pat, you know, like
And myself,
seriously,
I
and
must say.
you, and all these people. I think they know that, right? And,
Yeah.
But they're making whatever they can make. They're gonna get their money. The investors should be really worried, I think.
Yeah, I think so
know?
too. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think the investors should be really worried because it was an artificial, a very gross artificial inflation of the value of cannabis, or at least what the price should be. Probably the value of cannabis is priceless, you know, for how it helps people, for
sure,
that moment
yeah.
in time when it's able to change your mood, to change your perception on things or whatever you're using it for.
Well, it helps
It's
entire
invaluable.
communities. It's not just helping that person. Once that person's feeling better and doing better, then you know it moves on and it helps the whole situation.
But
with everybody.
and so it's invaluable in that sense.
Yeah.
It saves people's lives. I mean, what's the value of a person's life? That individual whose life has been saved, I meet them every day. They'll tell you that it's invaluable.
Apparently,
but
they,
the price of it, you know, the price of it based on what it costs to get it to the person should not be anywhere close to what it is. We shouldn't be talking in terms of pounds. We shouldn't be talking in terms of ounces. I mean,
pennies a gram is what they've got to
pennies
down
a
to producing
gram,
it.
you know.
So I don't understand why they're losing money.
So they got all these investors sucked into this idea. I mean, it's a brilliant scheme if it works, right? But the idea is they can maintain higher than prohibition prices on this if they use taxpayer money to run a protection racket to make sure that nobody just grows the shit themselves and gets it into the marketplace. Because anybody can grow it. Grows fairly easily. Yeah, a little more expertise, a little extra time. You got some really nice cannabis. But they can't stop it. They can't stop it. I mean, it's sickening to me. I'm outraged. They're using my tax dollars to buy weapons and to build cages and to hire people to go and catch people and put them in those cages, you know, to protect a government monopoly on a fucking plant as they try to tell us we can't be part of that market. Like, I'm outraged, you know, beyond, you know, I mean, holy smokes, this is bad. But what a scheme. You know, what a scheme. Taxpayers' money is going to protect your interest, shareholders, you know. Sure, we can get $12 a gram because we got the police, the whole Canada police force, and all the court system, and the politicians, and they're all going to make sure that we get to sell weed at $12 and $17 a gram, and anybody else who tries to do that, not going to cost the shareholders of our companies any money. Taxpayers are going to look after protecting our interests.
Yeah,
what a
jail,
scheme
ruin
they got.
lives. That's just what cartels do.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so obviously corrupt. You know, like, why are we still here? How can we be here? I mean, the illusion of this fancy pants flipping prime minister up there saying that, you know, I'm going to legalize weed and I'm going to put on the black market and we're going to protect kids and all this stuff. And he sits there and he sells that to people, and we let them get away with it when it's complete, utter criminal bullshit that they're doing.
So, you know, it does seem a little unstoppable at times what that guy does, eh?
Well, they think they're unstoppable, you know. If they were unstoppable...
I like to see us do what some of these other countries do and just have enough, you know?
It's Mexico that put everything they could into putting down the drug cartels, you know.
Sure they did, yeah.
So many headless people. So many so many taxpayer dollars buying tanks to blow up, towns that were controlled by. I mean, it's a war going on, and not just there.
It's a war on the poor more than it is war on drugs.
Funded by government and taxpayers.
For the war on the poor to get rid of the poor. So it's just it's a
so
mad
wrong.
cycle.
And yeah, why are we still here? This prime minister of ours stood up and said, "I'm going to have a gender equal cabinet, because it's 20. Why? He said because it's 2015. Well, how about we have reasonable, uncorrupt public servants? Because it's 2020.
I'm still waiting for the money for mental health. Didn't he say all the money was going to mental health? I haven't seen any go there. I watch for that.
They say there's a whole bunch of money going to the opioid crisis.
Well,
I don't
to buy
see
his
it.
heroin.
To buy pharmaceutical drugs for people.
Well, he's buying heroin now. They just passed it, so they can sell heroin now.
I'm for a safe supply of all drugs, which means that it should never be in the hands of anybody, with greed in mind, to give people that which they want if it's something that they're going to consume, like drugs. There should be reasonable access.
Too, because weed, I think anybody could just bring in and have it tested at a local test facility. But when it comes to things like heroin and things like that, I think maybe it is a real good spot to have the government step in and
there needs to be
create a safe supply,
reasonable access. The things that are of a serious concern, where you overdose easy or be addicted and have those problematic things need to be dispensed with the proper education. So that anybody that's going to be able to get that because they want that, they're going to have to go through some sort of an orientation that makes it so that they're for sure. They have been told, they get it, they can feed it back to you, they know, here's the parameters of what this is about, I understand the dangers, I understand the risks, I still want to try that because no business of yours. Maybe they're suffering, maybe they're adventurous, maybe they just, you just want to have an experience, you want to know, you want to try. They've been told what the parameters are, they've been told what the risks are. They want to do it, it's up to them. It's not up to government to say you can't do that. It's not up to government to say you can't get that. It is up to government to make sure you know what you need to know before you make your decision about that. But to prohibit it, only now you're really going to get it. You're going to get it from somebody who's not going to care about you.
Exactly. Yeah, you got all these guys out there selling stuff with, God knows what. But Dana's got his place open, so that's a bonus. You can go down there and get your drugs tested and make sure they're safe, and encourage drug dealers or drug suppliers, I should call them, and to bring in their drugs or send them in to get tested there too.
Yep. We're moving forward. There's a lot of good people moving forward. That's what I'm saying. They've done what they've had to do because they've been forced to do it. If the activists had to just shut up and gone away like they wanted, if they could arrest us out, if they could actually enforce and scare people enough that nobody tries to counter their monopoly, and then they say you can do this and this, but you can't do that and that, and if people just obeyed, and if they could force people to obey, then they could maybe get their way. But they can't do that. Then they don't do that. And they don't win even with the tanks. They don't win no matter how much money they throw at it. It only makes it that people get more resilient, they get more smart, and things get more and more dangerous all the time. It's just not the role of a tyrant to do that, let alone the role of public servants to be spending taxpayer dollars to keep us from accessing this and forcing us to access that. Not their role. Tell us about this, tell us about that. Make both available. We'll make up our own minds. I
agree.
They work for us. So anyway, Jerry, that's another segment. I want to mention that there's Sarah McNeil has also got something going on coming up right away in February here, middle of February in Red Deer, I think, or is that also? No, she's
done. They're done now.
They're done.
They're done. So they're waiting on the decision. So it should be, I think, beginning at April.
Okay. Good. Heidi Chartrand has got another court appearance March 2nd. They're still struggling with papers from the ENDS decision, and there's other movement going on there as well. So nothing concrete coming out of that yet, and we'll see where that one goes. The City of Vancouver appeal was lost to the
Yeah, I
activists,
saw that.
which maintains that the city has the power to make whatever bylaws they want. And it's bad news with respect to them deciding they can shut down access to medical cannabis if they want. That's bad news for that on that side. It's good news on the side that they can allow access to medical
Right.
cannabis if they want. So we're working with the city and
Hopefully
hopeful that they're going to allow
the
that.
mistakes
So.
they've made, and
Exactly. We think
yeah,
we're
move
moving in the right
forward.
direction. So, thanks so much, Jerry. We'll see you again next week.
All right,
and,
man.
Have as much fun as you can till then.
I'm trying here.
Sorry about the bump there. I should put the mat underneath there so I don't ruin your eardrums at home. Access to drugs of all kinds is what's kind of at issue here. What the role of government is in allowing or not allowing those things is what's at issue here. I'm very happy to have as my guest today Howard Dejong. He's been working on this issue for a long time, a board member of Van Du, very active in harm reduction and numerous other things. And without much further ado, as always, I'm going to let Howard speak for himself and tell you all about what's going on with him and how he got to be where he is. So how you doing, Howard? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Neil, it's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you, sir. You've done something for me that's extremely special, and we're going to get to that a little farther down the road.
Yeah, well,
We'll talk about that. But in
you
the
were my
meantime,
mentor in that too, so
we'll get
There you
there.
go.
We got a fair bit of time today.
yeah.
I want to know, first of all, about you, about your upbringing, your history, where you were from
Well,
originally.
my story about cannabis,
Well, not just
is-
about cannabis to begin with. Where are you from? How'd you grow up?
I was born in Edmonton, Alberta,
Right?
and lived there for 2 years until something happened and social services took me and my sister away from our parents.
I see.
We bounced around foster homes for a year until we were subsequently adopted by the people we call mom and dad.
And you were 3 years old at that time?
I was 3 years old.
Right on.
Somehow I got PTSD out of the deal, which is kind of understandable.
Yeah.
Something happened, don't know what it was, but even being taken away from the parents, that could maybe
You're
cause
3
it
years
too,
old.
we don't know.
You're 3 years old. That's
Yeah.
such
Don't-
traumatic things to have happen to you.
Exactly.
To
Don't-
not have had an impact would have meant you weren't fully aware, weren't fully there, And a 3-year-old going through that is hyper aware.
Yeah.
Hyper aware.
And what happened was I got PTSD. And when a toddler gets PTSD, it causes a permanent chemical change in the brain, which means my body pumps out more adrenaline than normal, but it really manifests in the late teens where it just floods the body with adrenaline. And I had gone to the doctor because I was getting
That's
these-
tough through adolescence.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's adrenaline is a drug, eh? Like it's
Yeah.
full fight or
And
flight.
where were
for no
you? You were
reason.
adopted into a family, but you were still living in Edmonton?
No, I was living in southern Alberta,
Okay.
a little on a farm close to a little village called Tilly,
I see.
and spent 30 years there.
I see.
Bought the farm for my dad. Went farming myself for a dozen years until I got divorced, and then my heart wasn't in it anymore, and I went trucking instead.
But as a teenager, you're dealing with this PTSD and the...
Yeah. What happened was I went to the doctor, explained to him what was happening, asked him what it was and what to do about it. And he said it's exactly what you call it's adrenaline rushes. And sorry, but there's nothing we can do about it. You're going to have to learn to live with it. And this was kind of concerning because each attack was getting stronger, and my heart would race so bad, it would go bam, 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 and then stop. And then bam, 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 and then stop, skipping beats and that.
Right.
Obviously not good for you.
Triggered by events that were going on in your environment? Or
Nothing.
just-
It,
Oh, okay.
it didn't make any difference what was going on. I had
Like sitting there
different-
having dinner, all of a sudden your heart's
all of a
moving.
sudden
Right.
it didn't, there was nothing to trigger it, which is really an odd thing, eh? But with toddlers, it's when they get that, it's like that. When a person goes to war, they get PTSD. You know exactly what it's from, but as a toddler, the mind can't remember it. One of the reasons I came to Vancouver was in the hopes that I could meet a hypnotherapist that could actually regress me back to that point where I could figure out what caused it, right? But I haven't found that yet.
Well, although, I mean, the separation from your birth parents and all of that, that caused it. We just figured it out right here for you, Howard. You were 3 years old, with that sort of a mentality going on, and horrible things happened in your life. Must have scared the shit out of you in ways that you couldn't deal with. Like, you must have shut off from parts of how your brain was trying to deal with what was happening.
I imagine
Man, you couldn't have come out of that, unscathed. You couldn't.
Well, cannabis, after I'd gone to the doctor.
Okay,
'cause
so
he
I'll
told
let you
me-
go. I'll let you go there. How old are you now? And when did?
I was 18 years old.
Now you're 18.
I was driving a school bus, and I got one attack when I was driving a school bus, and I swore if I ever got another one driving, I wouldn't drive school bus again because it was just too dangerous.
Right.
You're hauling the most precious things on the planet.
Right.
And you're in full fight or flight where, you know what it's like when you get into an accident where everything slows down?
Well, I thought you were going to say for me, it's when I almost get into an accident and then my heart's beating like crazy for a little bit after that. I've got to settle myself down. If somebody cuts out in front of me and I have to hammer on the brakes or something, I get that, that post reaction is pretty intense. And I thought that's what you were going to mention. But I also know what you're talking about when you're in the middle of having an accident, how things slow right
everything
down.
slows right down. Well, it's pure adrenaline, right?
I see. That does that.
And that does that.
I see.
And when you're driving anything, right, all your senses are super heightened.
Right.
You feel everything. Your reactions are extremely quick while everything else is going slow.
Yeah.
So it's dangerous, right?
It's disorienting.
And I swore if I ever got another one while driving bus, I wouldn't do it anymore.
Right. And that led you to your doctor, I guess.
And I went to the doctor, and he told me they couldn't do anything about it. Well, the next time I felt an attack coming on, I was an 18-year-old man. I happened to have a little bit of weed on me, recreational use. And I thought, I'll see what it does. I quickly twisted one up and was overjoyed to find that it not only stopped it, it destroyed it.
Right.
And I never went anywhere without a bag of weed.
Ever since.
It's one of the things like
you still to this day get those attacks.
To this day, yes. Yeah. And interestingly enough, my pain specialist, I asked him for a prescription. This was in Alberta.
Is this due to an accident or something that happened, or?
No. Yeah, no. I was also. This is another part of the story too. What cannabis has done for me.
Right.
I was born with spina bifida. Let me finish the one. Where the hell was I?
You're a pain doctor and you're 18 and...
Oh, yeah. I tried with the synthetic THC.
Okay.
I went to my pain specialist. I tried to get a prescription for cannabis because when you take cannabis, and this is scientifically proven as well, when you take a pain pill and you smoke a joint, or you take an edible and drink a coffee, those three things synergetically work together,
right,
and makes that pain pill so much more effective.
Right.
And I knew that when I was in my early 20s.
Right.
Because I was born with spina bifida occulta. I had a hole the size of a loonie through my bottom lumbar.
Wow.
I had two doctors tell me, one was a specialist. They both told me that I'd probably be in a wheelchair before I was 30. They told me this when I was 20.
Right.
That I was hauling bales for a living, eh?
Wow.
I was ripped, I was in good shape and everything, but I always had pain.
Right.
And one day I got rained out and I thought, I'll see what the doc says, because I've always got pain. So I go in there and I tell him, I says, I know I'm in good shape, but like, why do I have all this pain?
Right.
Says, let's take some pictures and find out. And so we go in, get some x-rays, we go into his office, puts them up on the board. He sits back in his chair, he crosses his arms, he says, well, there's your problem. And I'm looking at him, I've never seen x-rays in my life.
Yeah, you don't know what you're looking at.
He says, do you see it? I says, honestly, I've never seen x-rays. I don't know what I'm looking for. And he leans over and he points at the hole and he says, that's not supposed to be there.
Wow.
You're doing remarkably well. You'll
Yeah.
probably be in a wheelchair before you're 30.
Wow.
And he said it just like that.
Wow.
And I went, well, what do I do? And he says, well, quit your job for one and get a desk job.
Stop throwing hay bales around.
Yeah, which I didn't. I kept on going. I figured the muscle was what was keeping things kind of straight and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
But what happened was because of the PTSD, I was smoking weed and I was also making brownies. My wife would make brownies for me.
I see. Living in southern Alberta,
Yes.
packing weed all the time. No wonder you
All
wanted to
the
get a
time.
doctor's prescription.
We had some of the best BC weed I ever had was in Alberta.
I see. Yeah.
And that's the
A lot of
truth.
places say that.
UBC chemo, wheelchair weed we called it.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah,
I heard that before.
yeah. And anyway, she would make me brownies, and full bud brownies, like no oil or anything. Just grind it right to a powder
Right.
and put it into
cook
the
it in
mix
the-
and
in
cook
the
it
oven.
in,
Nice.
and that would get you higher. What I would used to do is I would eat a brownie, smoke a joint, and while the joint was coming down, I could feel the brownie coming up at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
And the brownie was higher than the joint,
Right.
and it would last for 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
Well, I broke a little tiny bone in this wrist, and the same doctor that told me I'd probably be in a wheelchair for 30 by the time I was 30, he told me that I'd have my arm in a cast, a minimum of 6 months, and then a 50-50 chance of surgery, because this was a real bad break. I flew 65 feet off a motorcycle.
Right.
And
Lucky that's all you had.
and so, make a long story short, 3 months later, he's asking me, what the hell am I doing? Because I'm completely healed. I was scheduled for surgery, and now I'm completely healed. And this
Right.
was a particularly bad break.
Right.
And I says, well, I don't know, I ate a lot of garlic. And he says, no, that can't do this. What it was the cannabis that I was consuming. It heals bones.
Yeah.
And I've seen the scientific papers
Yeah,
on it.
there are studies on that
I've
now too. Yeah.
done so much research. It saved my life,
Yeah.
right? You know, I'm walking, talking.
How old are you now?
I'm 58. I'll be 59 in May.
I see. About to enter your 60th year.
Yeah, pretty close.
Good job. Good job. So, what sort of other ways did you use to combat pain? Did you get that synthetic cannabis and try
Oh,
that?
I was going to tell you about that too. That pain specialist, he said, I'm very sorry. I can't give you a prescription for pot because I just don't have the authority. Out of my 400 patients, only one has a script for pot.
This is
and
40 years ago now.
This
If
was,
you were 18,
no, this wasn't when I was 18.
you're older now.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
no,
you're
what,
closer to 30.
I've got a lot more pain or spinal issues. I've got spinal stenosis in my neck from C4 to C8.
I see.
And it's squeezing it 3/4 of the way. I've got 2 vertebrae between my shoulder blades that are bone on bone pushing into my spinal cord.
Hard to
I've got-
sleep.
Thanks be to God.
You figured out.
Cannabis, buprenorphine.
Right.
Buprenorphine is the best semi-synthetic opioid I've ever seen. I was given the honor of editing the doctor's pain and addictions modules
Right.
by the BCCSU. I worked for them as
Right.
well as a peer navigator.
Right.
And so I did a lot of research on it, and I found out, like, in Canada, we're 20 years behind Europe. Why we're not following them a little bit closer, I'm not sure. We're 10 years behind the States, 20 years behind Europe. And it's been that way since we were kids.
Right.
I don't know why, but it has been. And but I started doing research and found out they've been using it in Europe for 30 years.
Cannabis?
Uh,
Or buprenorphine?
buprenorphine.
Buprenorphine.
And it's a semi-synthetic.
Right.
It's from the poppy plant, but they don't use the sedative part of it. They use this, the I can't remember the proper word. The stimulant part of it.
Right.
There's actually a
So there-
stimulant part of opium.
I see. Much like cannabis, it has both sides
Yes,
of the.
it has both sides of it.
I see.
And they figured it out how to use the stimulant side of it. So, I could, like, because I use it, I could be walking down the street and somebody could hot shot me. I'd never know it. I'd just keep on walking and it wouldn't bother me. It's the strongest blocker made.
I see.
It's
What do you mean when you say someone could hot shot you? What does that mean?
if somebody came up with a needle full of heroin and shoved it in my leg
Right.
and shot it, anybody else, it would drop them and they'd die.
Right.
With
Just
me,
with not with fentanyl, just with heroin itself.
well, with
for an
fentanyl,
average
anything,
person,
but
yeah.
with this, it stops that from happening because it stops all other opiates.
I see.
It's also a blocker,
Right.
which is quite an amazing thing in itself.
You
But-
had a relationship with opiates before that, I would imagine.
Oh yes, I've taken just about all of them.
Right.
Like, I don't know of any that I haven't taken.
By prescription at times,
Yeah,
off the street at times.
No, I never bought anything off the street. It was always by script.
I see.
And I preferred to skip doses if I could. Like if I didn't need them,
Right.
I would skip them so I could stretch my script.
Right.
I only took them when I needed them.
Right.
And yet the doctors here, when I got here in BC, they treated me like an addict.
Right.
It was disgusting, actually.
Right.
It's the reason why I joined the BCC or BCA pump.
Right. That's through Van. It's another side group through Van.
That's through Van Du as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So you came to Vancouver when you were 30-ish then?
no, I
34?
no, I've been here for probably 6 or 7 years, I guess now.
How was that all?
Yeah, but I've been bouncing around BC for years. Just different spots. See, I was in Mission, I was in Sechelt, and yeah, I'm a wanderer.
I see.
I've always been a wanderer. I kind of figured that Vancouver I'd be here for a while, do what I need to do, and then move on.
And
But
so you have an affiliation with Van Du.
Yes.
3 years ago, I started the Cannabis Substitution Project. I believe you were on the board of directors.
yeah,
And you then pretty shortly took the concept to Victoria.
yes.
And that's what I alluded to early on in the interview, is that there was something you did pretty special for me, which was to take our project and introduce it to the sister group. I guess that would be fair, over in
Yeah.
Victoria, Solid.
Yeah.
Sort of like an equivalent of Van Du. Van Du is an
Yeah.
advocacy group for
Yeah, Solid
drug
had asked
users.
for somebody to come over and help with the overdose rooms,
Right.
like the overdose prevention rooms, and because I was one of the people that got that started,
right?
I was the guy who walked and talked with Thomas
Mulcair.
Kern,
Probably.
Thomas Kern, I think.
Oh,
Yes.
the medical director.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked for an hour and a half in the alley when we were doing the alley patrol.
Right.
And he told me in the 90s it was bad, but it's worse now. And a day later, we got at Van Du, we got the notice, how fast can we get a room open? We said 24 hours, and we did it, and we kept that going. I worked in that room for 8 months until Solid asked for my help, or for help from Van Du. And because the energy had gotten so dark here, I jumped at the chance to go over there too. And I wanted to take your project over there. I was one of the holy rollers,
Right?
and
I see.
I loved what you were doing, and I thought, why not here too?
Yeah. Eh?
You know, like it's medicine.
Well, it sure works. I mean, we pretty quickly with the CSP had people coming, to get another care pack that were telling us about how much it was helping them, in all these different areas. It definitely is effective and works for people. And yeah, you kind of took that idea over to Victoria and introduced it over there to Jack, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
I have to tell you too, there was one time I was going to the office and I met some people coming out from the CSP,
Right.
and some of them had tears in their eyes, and I'm going, and they stopped me and they says, "You guys might get shut down." And I says, "What?" And they said, "Somebody said that they got fentanyl poisoning from your product." And I says, "No,
I see.
we're not getting shut down," and that's a lie.
Yeah.
I know that's a lie.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I went in and I talked to Jack and that, and it was this couple that had gone to the pod, which the pod is an overdose prevention room right over at what's called Our Place, where a lot of the poor people go. They get fed there, and they have an overdose room, and they have computers and lots of different services. Anyway, they had gone there first, done a shot, and then gone over to Solid and grabbed some edibles and smoke. Well, when they got back to their halfway house, they looked high, and so they piss tested them, and they piss tested positive for fentanyl, and they blamed it on the weed.
I see.
They didn't want to admit they had gone to the pod.
Right.
And so it took us a bit to prove it. We had to test 20,000 pieces of product.
Is that right, eh?
Yes, it was
edibles?
absolute. Yeah,
Is that
all kinds of, and yeah, it was.
Yeah, I didn't know
stupid.
that story from over there.
Yeah, no, and
Interesting.
but we kept it open, and the police knew. This
Well,
was
yeah,
true,
the
but we
authorities would have been
still had to
involved
go
in that,
through all
right? They would have been
Yep.
overseeing what was going on
the
there.
cops were there, right?
So
quick.
that's pretty interesting. I mean,
yeah.
that the authorities, because here they just ignore us. They completely ignore us here. They've never been there. None of the city officials have ever been to Vandu to see what we're doing with the CSP.
No.
We had a meeting yesterday with one of the councillors. I took her some pictures.
Oh, that was a wonderful meeting too.
We had a really good meeting.
That was great.
So I
I
brought
was
some
really
pictures.
happy about that.
Now, there's our lineup from the day before yesterday. That's Sunday's lineup there.
And that's awesome.
That's me trying to make as big a spectacle as I can of what we're doing there. We're not trying to hide. We want the government to pay attention and come and talk to us and find out what we're doing.
Well, the truth is the truth.
There's another one.
Right?
There's inside. There's no, wrong way now. So there's
there's a couple of board members.
and we're just getting started there. Just got all the boxes right at the bottom of the picture there. All those boxes are filled with care packs with different edibles. They range as the ones on the front desk that you see there. We've got the full CBD or the full THC, or we've got the half and half sativa or the half and half indica, thanks to Twisted Extracts. And then we build those bags up with the other things that we get, the caps from Dirty Dave, and then whatever cookies we have. And we always put a joint or two in those bags, and that's what they get.
Deb brings
John's there
brownies
with his
once
pizza.
in a while.
Yeah, Deb's there almost every time with the brownies and stuff. So
Yeah, she's
yeah.
awesome
So that's pretty cool. But in Victoria, they do it a little different over there.
That they do, and now they've got it set up with something that I wanted to talk to you about too. I told you about a little bit about my. I'm working with a social worker from St. Paul's Hospital to open up a co-op pharmacy. With that, we want to have a cost plus dispensary.
Right.
And I was talking about a grow room.
Right.
And we want to have a few other services for the poor people, like massage and acupuncture and various ways to kill pain and other things, energy healing.
Would you do that within the facility there that Solid has? I think they changed location since I was there last. As far as
Oh
I
no,
understand
that's not solid. That's what I'm doing here.
Oh, you're
actually.
talking about with our CSP here.
Yeah, with Vancouver.
Right, I see.
And
cool.
I'd like to integrate it all. Like I was saying, I was working with, his name's Damien. He's a social worker with St. Paul's Hospital.
Right.
And he came to us at BCAPOM about this
And
idea.
BCAPOM, for our listening or for our viewers, is
the British Columbia Association of People on Opiate Maintenance.
I see.
And it used to be
So the methadone programs and the other programs.
yes.
That,
Now it used to be just for methadone, but now it includes all opiate replacements.
because there's a number of them now that they've introduced.
Yes. And even morphine now is an opiate replacement,
I see.
which it was an opiate in the first place.
Yeah. Well, all these
But-
things are kind of that anyway. They're synthetics and they're
Oh, yeah.
they're opioids in their own right. Basically, they're just opioids that are easier to manage, easier for the pharmaceutical companies to provide a safe supply of for people and things. And as I've asked some of these representatives of the pharmaceutical industry, trying to promote these things at Van Du meetings, are we talking about something that would get people off of their opioids and then they can live a opioid-free life, or are we talking about something where they're just going to switch from their street opioids to your, pharmaceutical opioids, and then they're still going to do them for the rest of their life, and they're like, oh no, it's a maintenance thing, it's a, do it for the rest of your life sort of thing. And thankfully, the people at Van Du saw through that pretty quickly, and ushered those people out. It's here's the pharmaceutical industry that because of many of their practices and their ethics have resulted in a lot of people being addicted to opioids.
Oh, hugely.
And here they are they've got the solution as well, and we'll sell you that. So these people are pretty brilliant business-wise. They just don't have
all about the money.
much of a soul.
It's all about the money.
It's all about profits over patients.
Well,
and
that's
people.
why cannabis was made illegal in the first place.
Of course.
The forestry industries, the cotton industries, and big pharma. Those three. No hemp, clothing, paper.
That's it. It was convenient that they could use it as a racist tool.
Yeah, that too.
It's convenient that they can use it for controlling populations. I mean, the police love the fact that all they'd have to do is they could smell some marijuana, and now they can tear your car apart and search you and all the rest of it.
Prisons for profit too.
How
many people are in there for 25 years or for life for 3 busts?
It's
in
so
certain
sad.
states, there's 3 strikes, you're in forever.
It's all about
It's
controlling
wrong.
people and making money, and it's just disgusting. I read a book, Howard, probably 10 years ago now, that described the women that were incarcerated, in the United States. This is about the U.S. prison system, and it was about the women that were incarcerated there for nonviolent crimes. The vast majority of them were there because they were the last line of who was going to give people up. They weren't going to turn on their sons or their family members, and so they were going to be doing the time, because that's the way that they operate down there. They'll threaten you. They'll say, we're going to give you a 10-year sentence if you don't tell us who it was that was behind this operation, or you can't lead us to somebody else, or blah blah blah. And in most cases, it's the women that won't talk. And they end up in prison, and it's just disgusting. It is absolutely horrifying for these families.
That is.
All in the name of profits, not anything in the name of, your government cares about you, and these pills are bad for you, so don't do them. And if that was the case, they wouldn't have to use the criminal law and a bunch of people with badges and guns and cages to make sure that you don't do those harmful things. Don't do that. It's going to hurt you. And if you do that, well, we're really going to hurt you. We'll show you.
I know the Bible very well.
Do you?
Yeah,
How's that?
I do.
Your
I started
parents were
studying
religious?
it kind of, but I just when I was 19 years old, 20 years old, I got a thirst for wanting to read it. And so I started studying it.
I see.
And it says in the Bible that all things are lawful. St. Paul said this. St. Paul the Apostle. He said, all things are lawful. Might not be beneficial, but all things are lawful. And that's the way I believe, and I said this when I was 20 years old. I said, I believe that all drugs should be legal.
They can't be illegal. Who
And
gets the right to tell another human being what they can put in their body? Nobody ever gave anybody those rights. Nobody has those rights.
Exactly.
If they do have them, they stole them. They took them by force.
Right. That's right.
But really, in reality, they're wrong. They're in the wrong.
Yep.
And they should F off. Sorry, Auntie Barbie. This is serious stuff here. People's lives are being ruined by this stuff. It's serious, and it's really, really maddening that we have to be in the positions that we have to be in. It was the street people that resulted in Vandu being formed in response to what was happening because of tainted street drugs back in the 90s. That's how Vandu got to be there. They had to take charge because the governments weren't going to do it. The governments fought them to even do that. All they were doing was caring for people.
Yeah.
They were caring for people. They decided that
That's
people
all it
were
was.
dying by themselves, all alone behind dumpsters out of fear of prosecution and all the rest of it. And if they had somebody there with them, or if they could go somewhere where somebody could keep an eye on them, then they wouldn't die. Yeah. It was just people caring about people.
Yeah. It's all about love.
Illegal.
And they didn't like that.
They don't like that.
Yeah. No. And in fact, the police here, if they find somebody that's overdosing, they don't carry nasal Narcan.
They don't?
Nope, not here.
Wow.
In the States they do, but here they don't.
You'd think
I
that would
carry
be an
nasal.
absolute
I don't have
mandatory
it,
piece
but-
of equipment to have.
Yeah,
You would think so.
I carry it all the time. I say 3 people with it on the street.
It would, for our police officers, that should, in a crisis like this.
Exactly, and I don't understand why, but they don't.
It's just part of the war against the poor.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's
all
not just
a war
financially
about,
poor people. It's
one
those
out of
poor
5
people that were traumatized in their youth. It's those poor people that have had things to deal with that none of us would ever be able to deal with.
yeah,
Never, for the
there's
grace
so
of
many.
God, go any of us.
So
It's these
many.
poor people that all these laws are harming, and they're there to protect profits. It's just disgusting. It's like, how can we be doing this? How do?
getting
Wow.
on the price of weed too.
Yeah, I know.
In Alberta, my ex-wife, she's got MS, well, Lyme's disease actually, but she has to claim it's MS because the doctors refuse to acknowledge that Lyme disease is in Alberta. And so she can't stay on disability if she doesn't.
No,
Say
it's
it's MS.
corrupted our whole society.
Yes, the whole medical system is corrupt and it needs to be revamped from the top down. We need to get some political figures that have the balls to take this by the hand and do what's right.
A reset of our democracy, which would attract a different type of human
Yes,
being that would stand up for
exactly.
the rights of the poor people
Exactly.
instead of using them as scapegoats and blaming them for their own addictions and their own problems and
One out of
continuing to
5
traumatize them as they go in the process.
So much. I have clients, like I said, I'm a peer navigator, and I have clients that have, one of them, he just finally got his medical records. His name's Jeffrey Hearn. He's actually kind of famous in the fact that he was a victim of a home invasion 21 years ago, where he got hit in the head with a hammer 30 times. And fought his way. And it's absolutely amazing. When you look at the man, you cannot tell that he's had any brain damage at all.
Well, you can't see people's disabilities, shall we say.
And
or
people don't
past
understand
traumas,
how much
shall we
he's
say.
gone through.
I know, eh?
And he's been treated really, really harshly. In so many ways, it's wrong. Absolutely wrong.
It's the type of story that all of us human beings have compassion for.
Yeah.
All of us human beings would want to try to do something to help that person or to make sure that nobody else gets hurt like that, and all of these different things.
My boss
And
at the
instead,
BC
we're surrounded by or living in an environment where our governments are pawns to corporations who are using business ethics to determine how to deal with people.
That's
They
it.
don't care about people's feelings or their families or their futures or anything like that. It's all about, you're a number. If you can make me money, I'm going to, you're useful to me. If you can't make me money, I don't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And this whole protection racket for the government cannabis stores is wiping out access to medical cannabis, harming the real poor people who needed that.
They can't pay for
And,
it. They don't have the money, and they're the ones that need it the most.
You know what one of the councillors said during the discussions about the motion that was passed to allow for the dispensing of low barrier access to cannabis? One of the councillors, was it the councillor? No, it was a doctor from Coastal Health who was there to say that you don't need to, worry about having access for people to medical cannabis on the downtown east side where they had put in an exclusion zone. They wouldn't even let government stores, cannabis stores in that area. So the motion was to remove that exclusion zone and to allow for the dispensing of cannabis to the people in the neighborhood in the Hastings corridor. And the doctor from Coastal Health had the audacity to say that there was a thriving underground market for cannabis that included the downtown east side, and that the people, if they needed it, they could get it. And it wasn't up to the government to make sure that there was some store that they could walk safely into to get it, that there was plenty of it available down there. That's what she said. Dr. Daly from Coastal Health had the audacity to condemn those people to having to find somewhere on the black market that won't take advantage of them or exploit them in some way, because that's where all the real harms of drug use is the exploitation of people in their pursuit of healing themselves or dealing with their pain. They are constantly exploited by unscrupulous dealers, by robbers, and by the police, and our governments are all re-traumatizing these people and just using them as nothing but their chatter. They're something they can take advantage of, something they can steal from. It's disgusting.
It is.
We're 2020
now. 1 out
now.
of 5 people in BC are either on welfare or disability right now.
1 in 5.
Yeah, 20% of the population. And so this is why I call this systemic genocide.
It is. Because welfare doesn't help people. It condemns people to the slavery of the life that they're in, where they can't rise above it, because welfare doesn't allow you to rise above it. It holds you in that position. And it's not where people want to be,
It's not a help up.
It's not. They sell it to the mainstream populace like as if it's just a bunch of lazy people that don't want to go to work and they're just getting government paychecks every month.
Yeah.
And it's so not that. It is so not that. The vast majority of people that are collecting those checks, they need help, no doubt about it. They can't work 80 hours in a 2-week period or 8 hours in a day or those sort of things on a regular basis because of things that have happened to them, things that they had no control of.
They've either got physical or mental reasons.
Shit happened to them. You can't tell by looking at them.
No, not
They don't want to tell you about it in many cases.
Oh, many.
But if you get in there and find out, you'll find out that shit happened to them that you're pretty lucky didn't happen to you.
Yeah.
And they need some help.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to be trapped in welfare. They don't want to be not able to, have to make a decision between getting cannabis or getting food or paying their bills and all those sorts of things. They want to do things. There's things they can do. We don't have a society that really facilitates that very well. I'm hoping that our new Serious Hope Society can have down the road in the years to come some sort of a temporary employment agency that A, takes advantage of the skills that these people have and that they want to contribute with, and B, helps people, allow them to get a step up and knows that those people can contribute and allows them to contribute in ways that make sense. That's what I'm hopeful for in the future to some degree, but we sure don't have that going on right now.
No, I agree with you totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a sad state of affairs, and it's a lot to do with government corruption, needing scapegoats for their immoral government drug prohibitions.
The methadone thing. Do you know about this?
That there's a new form of methadone?
See, they had what was true methadone for decades, and people had been on it for decades and
used as a replacement.
Replacement for heroin.
Yeah.
Right? It was an opiate replacement.
You go to your pharmacist,
they give you a juice and you drink it, and
then you don't have to buy street drugs and all of that.
And methadone worked very, very well. People didn't have the urge to have to go and use heroin. They could actually have jobs and work and have a life instead of trying to hustle and all that. Well, in 2014, February of 2014, they changed the formulation from methadone to methadose. the pharmaceutical that makes methadose came in and made a hell of a pitch.
Right.
It doesn't have to be compounded. It's supposed to be the same drug, but it's not. It
Right.
doesn't have the same legs.
Right.
Methadone will last for 30 hours. You can sometimes last 2 days without having to take another dose. It's got a huge half-life on it. Methadose, maybe 16 hours. So every day you get up, you're sick.
Right.
I was forced on that myself
Through a doctor.
through a doctor here. His name was Dr. Yang, actually. And I begged him not to put me on methadose because I had been on
You'd
Hydromorph.
heard the stories by that time.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I had been on Hydromorph for years, and it suited me perfect. People never knew I used pills.
Right.
Okay, I've got chronic pain, but people didn't know. I had a social worker actually write a letter so I could get a doctor because nobody would touch me because my script was for just over 100 megs of Hydromorph a day, which would kill you or like
Right.
anybody here. Like
Right.
it's a huge amount. But because I'm so opiate tolerant,
Right.
like I've been taking opiates since I was a young man,
Yeah.
right? So it builds over time. But people didn't know. My body was accustomed to it. Hydromorph was the least damaging to my body.
Yeah.
Because I did a bit of
We
research.
live in a
on it.
world where people are you're better off if people don't know.
Yes.
You know?
I didn't want people to know.
Exactly.
And in fact, like when I moved to Vancouver, I felt called here. Okay, and so I called up the Lookout Shelter and asked them if they would put me up for a couple of weeks until I could find a place to live. They said sure. So I flew from Alberta to here. 2 weeks later, I'm in the house that I'm in now.
I see.
And been there for several years, 6, I don't know, somewhere in there.
Seen a lot from that porch.
And yeah, oh, I have. I used
Yeah.
to love coming out and looking at those trees, that park. It was beautiful. Now it's not so much.
Yeah.
That's a different subject altogether.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had more time, we still got some,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're certainly not there yet. Moving forward, you're working with these groups at this point. You have a vision of a co-op of some sort. Do you have a
Yes.
do you have a facility in mind, or is that something that you'd
Well,
be
we've
looking
talked-
for? Do you get the
well-
idea?
We've talked with BC Housing, and
The fellow from
we
St.
need a
Paul's,
place-
is he going to be influential enough to allow maybe BC Housing to help you have a grow room?
well, I've talked with them already. Like they love the idea of what I'm proposing.
Nice.
And like what my dream is to have a healing center,
Right.
okay, that has a co-op pharmacy. That way, instead of all these pharmacies that are they're paying for people's scripts.
Right.
There's so much corruption in it, it's ridiculous. Even the pharmacy that I go to, and I will not mention the name,
Right.
but they're paying some people that I know a fairly decent amount
Giving them a share of
every
their profits.
month. Yes.
Yeah.
Just so they get their script.
Because there's enough money in that
money
they can
in
do it. Yeah.
They can do it.
They'd rather have your $100 than
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
than nothing.
Well, so
So-
what we want to do is
They don't make their normal 200 off you,
yeah.
but they're going to get 100. That's better than nothing. Whatever the amount
and the
is, I have no
doctors,
idea, but-
so many of the doctors here are in league with this too. This is absolutely nonsense too. Because of the fact that this daily dispense, okay? When a doctor puts you on methadose, you have to go to a pharmacy every day to go and get.
They won't give you a 2-day supply or
They
more.
will not give you any carries whatsoever.
Wow.
You have to have it witnessed every day, and it's $15 for him to sit there and watch you drink that.
Wow. And he just keeps
$15.
rolling the people through. How long does that take?
So,
5-10 minutes to drink that thing?
What
How long
is
does that take?
15
How long does it
times-
take to drink that in front of you? How long is your segment of time when you're there drinking that?
It takes seconds.
So now and then next,
Yep.
next. I've seen
Yep.
the lineups of some of these places,
Yep.
these pharmacies down
Oh
there.
yeah, it's huge
So
money.
$15 every
Every
2
time
minutes.
they
You know, you could
witness
say every 2 minutes.
Somebody, and
Wow.
that's not, and just for them walking through the door, there's $10.
Wow.
Okay,
And then another 10, another 15 when you
and
drink.
then another 15.
Oh, so they're making
for
25. That's
witnessing.
easier to
There's
calculate.
25.
Every 4 people, you got $100. That makes it easier to do the math.
$200,000 every day goes out into the
Wow.
pharmaceuticals.
Just in that little
pharmacists
area there.
in this area. Yep,
Yeah.
200,000 every day.
Wow.
I've
The
done
doctors
math.
get a cut. Sometimes
And
the patient gets a
I
cut.
know.
Pharmaceutical companies are definitely getting their cut.
Oh yeah,
You know.
it's all about the money.
Yeah.
I know
In
one
fact, half of the
doctor.
cut is probably provided by taxpayers now, isn't it? Like you would think that the
Yeah.
amount of money that's being paid to that doctor or all that for all these programs, that's probably a lot of
yeah,
that's subsidized by tax dollars.
When I edited the pain and addictions module for the doctors, I wrote that there are doctors and there are pushers. The doctors actually care for their patients. Pushers care about their pads,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, they're and this daily dispensing. Like
That's
I'm
crazy.
really blessed because finally I've got on Suboxone. Like, and I researched it and that. I know it's the best one out there, best painkiller I've ever seen.
Right.
That combined with cannabis and a little bit of beer works great for
And
me.
cannabis amplifies the other drugs.
Yes.
That's one of the things I've had
Exactly.
reported to me a lot is that they can use
It
less.
really does. I don't have to use as much as I'm prescribed normally
Right. Because of the cannabis.
because of the cannabis.
Right.
And I tell my doctor, and she asked me one time, she says, "Is there any time that you don't use the pills?" And I says, "No, I always do. Like I have to. I because I've used them for it's been close to 3 years now. I guess I've been on them.
Right.
So if
And
I
you,
don't
you
have
referred to it earlier, but opioids require, or they build, or a person builds a tolerance as
Yes.
they use them. You have to use a
Yes.
little more,
I
a little more
try and
typically.
use as little as possible.
Right.
And I told her that if I don't have to take them, I'm not going to. The first thing she
And
wanted.
why is that? Is there a downside to taking more? Like what happens when you take more than?
Well, it's more toxins into your body.
Is there issues with say bowel movements or anything to do with your stomach or
With
do
this
the
one,
opioids
not
cause that?
so much. With methadose, absolutely. I was sick for the entire year I was on them.
Right.
On it. I hated it.
Just an
I
overall lack
despised
of
it.
well-being.
Yep. I was sick. I was pale. And when my doctor came to me, I got a new doctor, and she said, "Howard, I heard the Suboxone might be good for you. Do some research and let me know what you think." Because she knew I researched my drugs,
Of course.
my meds. And so I did. And I found out they had been using it for 25 plus years. It was rated excellent for mild to moderate pain.
Right.
And it was really easy on your body because they could use it for people with renal failure. And so, hey, okay, finally an opioid that is not too hard on me. There was even the side effects were not too bad, like made my skin really soft. I got blisters easy on my feet and that.
Right.
But that even kind of slows down over time.
Have you had periods where you were able to just use high-dose cannabis edibles?
Well,
In your case, likely not.
I have to take a certain amount of the opioids because of the fact that my body is dependent on them.
Right. It would be, you'd be
If I-
withdrawing without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So you've
I
never
can
gone through
skip
withdrawals
for a
and tried
long
that?
time. There was one time in Victoria, actually, I had eaten a bunch and smoked a lot and that and had a few beers, and I woke up in the morning and I thought, oh God, I have got the worst hangover. And I realized, well, I hadn't drank much, like at all, and then I realized it wasn't a hangover, I was going through withdrawal.
Right.
And I hadn't gone through withdrawal before, but
Right.
it had gone so many hours without taking a pill that, I was sick.
So you felt
already.
a little bit of that, but you haven't actually had to go through withdrawal. I'm
Not
happy
with
to-
Suboxone. I have when I was on Hydromorph. Somebody stole my meds one time,
I see.
and I was 20 or 48 hours without it.
Right.
And I took somebody with me to go a block and a half because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it, just to go to the post office. Thanks be to my ex-wife, she sent me, she paid for it on her credit card, sent me my script, and I got my script and I chewed down a couple of those pills and I was okay. But I was some sick.
Because withdrawal is a very scary thing.
It's
very-
horrible.
very
Like I
horrible
said,
thing. I've
I
never
would have
been
been
through
in
it.
the
I've never
hospital. Another 4 hours, I would have been in the hospital for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I've never been down that road that far. My uncle used to take Percodans and Percocets for nerve damage in his eye.
Yeah, I took perks for a long time.
And so, many years ago, I tried using Percodans and Percocets just to see what it was about. I don't know how. I don't even remember any real decision about it.
Yeah.
But I certainly did find myself working for insurance companies, going into homes that had fires and things and having to clear out a bunch of stuff. And in the medicine cabinets, if there was Percodans or anything with perk on it, I would take that. And then I would do some. And I'd start out just with like a quarter of a pill, and then a half a pill, and then a whole pill, and I think I'd get up to 2 pills over the course of about maybe 10 days or so. And then I'd get really high off it, like really like wow. But not all that good. Almost felt like my brain was melting a little bit, but it's all right. I was really stoned. I was young in my life.
Yeah.
And then I would throw up, and I'd go through an afternoon or an evening of throwing up and going, oh my God, I'll never do any of that ever again. But I didn't throw the bottle away that I had. I'd accumulated quite a large plastic bottle of these things.
It's funny how that happens.
It is, and then if a couple months or 3, I don't know how much later, I'd be thinking about just how loaded I would get on those, and I think, well, just a quarter of a pill. And I'd take a quarter of a pill, and I'd go through that same cycle again. I probably did it 5 or 6 times. And then the last time I did it, I just thought, oh my God, this is it. I never want to. I said that every time, but this time I dumped all the pills I had down the toilet. And that was many, many years ago. And I found out just recently that Percocets and Percodans, they're opioids. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So I think that, the throwing up was probably when I would, not do it for a day, and then, instead of doing it, I'd start throwing up. I would start going through withdrawals. I didn't know what any of that was about. Didn't know that those were opioids. So had a little taste of it. But what I've seen and what I've heard about people trying to withdraw is that that is probably the biggest barrier to changing the behavior, to ending the addiction, or whatever, however you want to put it. That the whole going through withdrawal is the real big one. And lately we've been getting a number of different reports from people talking about how they're able to go through that withdrawal period with major high dose edibles, like 400 or 500,000 milligrams of high dose edibles over the course of a couple of days, and they can get through that period. So that's very powerful as well.
Oh yeah, I know if I had to quit these subs, I would, God willing, I would have some real opium, and or maybe even kratom, and a lot of weed.
Some real high dose edibles.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we didn't talk about kratom, and that's a whole other topic, I guess. There's other
plant-based
options
medicines
as well.
are
Yeah.
what I believe in, actually.
And then there's a lot of people that are finding success with that as well. And here again, the government is restricting access without much
Well, of
justification at all.
Colloidal silver as well. You know,
There's a lot
colloidal
of things
silver
like that.
works. I know it works. I bought 3 generators. I got to buy another one. Like my ex-wife, she has Lyme's disease, right? I got her a generator, and she'd make a gallon and take an ounce every day or whatever.
Right.
And what it does is it destroys any pathogen that comes into its path. They've done experiments in the States, 3 IV treatments, and they destroy hepatitis and HIV.
But something that's being suppressed.
And the FDA wants to have it outlawed.
Yeah, so many
What
things
does
like
that tell you?
Oh, I know. We're living in a very corrupt world. You can't trust your government. Unfortunately, you
Systemic
can't trust your
genocide.
doctor.
Yeah.
They've all been very seriously co-opted by these pharmaceutical giants.
My dear doctor, I love her. God bless her. But one of the first things she said to me was cannabis has no medical benefit.
Yeah.
And I looked
She got
at
that
her
off the
and I
Health
said,
Canada
Are
website."
you serious?
Yeah.
You need to do some more research.
Exactly.
Like, there's so much evidence out there. Look at what the Israelis have been doing for decades.
I don't know
Colin,
why we don't have
like-
a group of doctors coming to Vandu every time we're there because someone in our lineup has been telling their doctor about how it's helping them, and they need to come and see for themselves. Why aren't
Absolutely.
they down there?
That's
Because they're
true.
corrupt. Because most of the medications that they prescribe to people come with an associated, cruise to the
Well,
Caribbean
the College of
or whatever else
Pharmacists
they
and
get.
Physicians
But,
are guilty of crimes against humanity.
they are. It's very unfortunate.
It
I
is
mean,
wrong what they've done,
it is.
and
They
I'm
should,
saying
they
it
should,
publicly.
they should step
It's true.
across onto the right side of history. We need the police officers that have just blindly, enforced laws that they knew better than to do.
yes, absolutely.
we
And
need
there's
them
some good cops
to-
out there too.
I think most of them are
they-
good people going into it. That's what I think. I think that the people that become primarily policemen, but I think I'll extend that to the physicians and doctors as well, that these are people
I
that
believe
grew
you.
up as young people, wanting
Well,
to
I do
emulate
like-
the ideals
yeah.
that they were given about those particular professions. But in the end, it turns out that they're just there to pump out pills for big bucks, or the cops are just there to catch a paycheck, and then what they're told to do, and that's that for that. It's very unfortunate because these were good people. They
Well,
still are in many cases
remember
people that could be
Cannabis
redeemed.
Day when you got jumped on. That
2015.
was wrong.
Oh man,
I was there.
I wonder about the cops that were there that day.
Yeah.
Does that still haunt them? Does that bother them
wonder.
at all about what they
You know
took
what
part
was
in that
wrong?
day?
Yeah.
Treating
That
me
whole
like I must have
line,
been. They treated
you
me
know?
like I was some sort of a top 10 wanted child killer
Yeah.
that they had finally spotted, and they amassed a group to surround me and apprehend me.
I know.
The amount of effort and money put into that apprehension.
No.
You would think that they had themselves a real heinous criminal right there.
I know.
And
I
in
was
my
there.
mind, it's a
That
lot
was
about
crazy.
a lot of our criminal laws about
Absolutely.
intention.
I wrote something about that too. I remember that. I was there. I was standing there.
It impacted a lot of people. But our criminal law is a lot about intention. It's a lot about determining the intention of the person
That's
that did
true.
the deed.
That's what it
And
says
in the case
in
of
theory
cannabis,
anyway.
my intention, I guess maybe I can only speak for myself, but I think I speak for a lot of people, that my intention on that day, on Cannabis Day, to make sure that I sold cannabis to people and had it available for them, were the
Yeah.
best of intentions.
Yep.
It was to get people
I agree.
what they needed to have in their lives that they couldn't get through the government. It was to protest bad laws that are preventing that.
Yeah.
My
the law
intentions
was
were
illegal
pure.
in the first place.
It should
It was
never have
under
been illegal.
false pretenses.
It should,
pretenses.
yeah, totally. There's no logic to
Thousands
it.
of years.
Lies and lies all the way through.
All the way.
And the
through.
overriding concept is profit over people.
That's
Let's
right.
make money, and it doesn't matter who we hurt.
All about profit.
All about profit and control.
Yep.
So it's a horrible thing. And,
And that's
I'm
what it
sorry
is.
that you've had to live a life where this oppression has affected you in bad ways, and I know that it has. I mean, you're passionate about helping people, about helping people get access to cannabis and other things that help them. I know the drive that's there with you. I've seen it, and I'm sorry that you've had to live your life being forced into having that kind of a drive that any of us
I
have, that all of us
believe
have.
Everything
it's too
happens
bad.
for a reason.
I
And
suppose.
there's a reason why we're here right
not-
now and why we're going to make a difference.
Well, there's certainly a
That
reason
meeting
you and
we
I are
had
here
yesterday-
right now, because we're going to make a difference, because that's what we're driven to do.
Yeah.
I think I'd, by this time, like to have a little more cushy life than I have right now. I'm a little busy trying to get this done, and we're not done yet. There's a ways to go, and I'm old now. But it is what it is, and this is the world that we have and what we're born into and what our paths are. And Howard, I mean, I can't thank you enough for doing what it is that you're driven to do, by being there, by moving these things forward, by helping us with the Cannabis Substitution Project, by getting all these things that you've been responsible for being a part of happening. I want to thank you so much, and for coming on the show and telling us all about it. It's so valuable and important to the people that watch this show to get a sense of who we people are that are involved in all this and why we're doing this. And once again, thanks for taking the time and coming on and doing what you're doing. Anything you wanted to say that I didn't let you say, I guess I should give you another opportunity.
Well, nothing. Thank you.
You got it
so
all
much.
out. Very
Thank you
good.
so much.
Glad to
It's
hear. And
my
we'll
honor to be on here, and I'm so glad that I got to say what
I'm glad you came on and said it too, and I look forward to the journey, because we're marching that road together, you and I, and we're going to see a lot of each other in the days to come.
I will say one thing. Thank you for mentioning that.
Cool.
I want to ask anybody out there that has a heart to want to help us monetarily, because now we're a society, we can actually, if we get financial help, we can actually take it and utilize it and get that grow happening, get that building what we need, and help the poor.
Are you talking about the Serious Hope Society?
Yes.
Very cool, because you just segued in perfectly into what I'm about to talk about next. So thanks for that, Howard. And that's very true. What you're saying is 100% true. We're going to have everything in place now, the proper structure to be able to take donations, which I didn't encourage up to this point because I didn't have that structure in place.
I know,
but
you couldn't
now
do it
we
before,
do.
but now you can.
Well, we're having our first board meeting coming up.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it right now. We've been incorporated as a nonprofit society, the Serious Hope Society. We have an amazing board and an amazing advisory board, and a group of other people that are surrounding us that want to be part of that. And there's great things that are going to be accomplished. And one of the first things on our plate is the Cannabis Substitution Project turning into a dispensary. And that's coming right up. We had a meeting with the city yesterday about supporting that. Helping us get a landlord that will be friendly to us, because the landlords in Vancouver are all about, if you're to do with cannabis, they want 3 times the rent and other things, or they won't rent to you at all. But we do think now we're going to have the leverage to be able to make that happen.
Yeah. Well,
and on the 23rd of February of this month, a week from Sunday, we're going to have our very first board meeting, and that should be a powerful event as well. And there's going to be a lot that come out of that. And thanks for helping us on that journey as well, Howard, and for being on that journey with us as we move forward.
It's my pleasure. You know, it's something I believe in. I believe
for sure, I know you do.
It's a gift from God, and that everybody should be able to access it very, very cheaply.
Yeah.
You know.
And in a world with public servants and the economic power that we should have as a country with public servants, people that can't afford it should just get it for free. I want my taxpayers going to that, not to bombs, not to tanks.
Yeah.
I want my tax dollars going to that.
Exactly. What I want in that co-op pharmacy is that cost plus dispensary is what I'm going to call it.
Like a sliding scale or something like
whatever
that?
Whatever it costs us.
We're going to use the
to
sliding
bring
scale.
Whatever that product in, whether, you know, if it costs us $1,000 a pound, you know, we're going to adjust that to whatever we charge for the grams or ounces or whatever, plus 10%.
So a minimal markup.
10% markup is all we're going to do.
Right.
And just to keep the doors open and not.
Yeah, you have to have a business model that makes sense and enough to do all that. But
exactly.
these ridiculous profits that these other people and corporations think that they should be able to make off of these people.
There's no reason for that. Like,
there's no reason for that.
You and I know what it costs.
Well, the reason is
grow
greed.
weed.
So.
You know, it's not cheap. It's not cheap by any stretch, but it's not $2,000 a pound either.
It certainly isn't. That's for sure. Well, thanks, Howard. We'll
Thank
see you down the road.
Thank you, brother.
Carry on.
Behind the scenes. You getting it all done? Look at all the gummies and the round stuff. You're doing great today. How you doing? Good. All right. We brought some pieces for the gang outside, eh?
And it's my birthday.
Oh wow! Look at all the goodies.
Yeah, it's good.
Specify on the post that this is a sampling of what we have. It's not what's in a typical care pack.
Well, it wasn't really intentional. I was trying to donate it to the people that are blockading the ports in favor of the Wet'suwet'en folks. But they got a lot of donations, so I just thought I would bring them because I know Van Du, and I'm into cannabis substitution for sure.
You guys got some pretty good weed down there on the table here. You're doing a good job because there's none on the floor. That's great.
We're using our classic Cannabis Culture magazine.
The Cannabis Culture magazine. You got a marijuana hat on.
You bet I do.
And Neil Magnuson has a marijuana hat on.
Oh, look at that.
Have you guys gone to the same store or something like that, or
No.
what's going on here? Are you trying to take over the world?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, just help a few people,
I
right?
don't want to dominate here. I'll dominate at home. And
How
yeah,
about you tell us how come cannabis helps you? How's that sound?
How does it help me?
Yeah.
Helps my body pain, helps my bursitis. I use creams. I use the pills.
Oh, I know you love the
Regularly,
creams, right? You told me lots of stories about your creams.
They do work very well for me.
Yeah, I know.
All the edibles, though, they're not for me. I can't take that kind of strength, but they work for other people really well. My girlfriend has a brain injury, and she uses the CBD mango and the one-in-ones for her migraine headaches.
Yeah?
And body pain as well.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's been really good. I have gotten off about 3 pills since I started smoking the marijuana. Benzoids, muscle relaxants, and painkillers.
That's
I
cool.
don't have to take those over the counter prescriptions, which is perfect.
That's what matters. Is we come down here and you get relief, and your buddy here is hi there. Oh yes, you know you're loved. He's loved. He's loved. He is loved.
Actually, Ms. Medibles, Erica, donated the keef, so I made some keef butter. And I've been spreading it out. So last week I was able to give you guys some raspberry Rice Krispies.
Yes, they were very nice.
And these are lemon sugar cookies
Oh wow!
with a lavender icing.
It goes along with your hair.
Thank you. Yeah,
And they look good.
It's all about the healing and the love.
It's the love.
It's the love
It's
and
the
the
love,
healing.
right? This is all to fight the opioid crisis too, as well, right?
It's a huge opioid crisis. I live in this neighborhood. It's frightening what's happening to our community and to the people that are devastated by the drug use, the drug world, and what they need to do to survive. And the homelessness, it's not okay. It's just not okay.
Yeah.
All governments need to pick up their boots and smarten up.
That's right.
Start building buildings and housing people, and then offer them the services that they desperately deserve and need.
You get your cannabis and it helps you out quite a bit.
Oh, it does. It helps me with the sleep and the pain for my back. So I'd rather use the cannabis for sleeping instead of using sleeping pills.
Oh,
I find that the sleeping pills make me feel so groggy the next day. So
I totally understand.
yeah,
Right?
And it's more natural. So
What works best for you?
the indica.
Indica, you like smoking, the cookies, the edibles?
The edibles is
Edibles
a
is
lot better
best?
for me.
I was wondering about cannabis. You're down here at the Cannabis Substitution Project lineup, and you get your cannabis. How does it help you?
Years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I just use that. I don't use anything else. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I refuse to get the... I'm an old athlete. I'm a goalie.
Hey, but you have a great
I
attitude.
smoke a joint, go play net, and the guy says, "Holy crap, man!" Yeah, it's helped me. Like I got rid of it. I find it's God's gift to cure.
It is.
That's all.
It is.
I'm just thrilled to be able to announce it, and I want to show you that it's real. I actually have the certificate in my hand.
Yeah, Neil! Hey, we want to thank you so very much, my friend.
And I gotta tell you, I didn't do this as much as you guys have all done this. I couldn't do this project by myself, as you all know. We have so much that we do every time. and you all made this happen. Anyway, that's my announcement. Thank you all very much. We'll look forward to the future and find out what all that means. 2 weeks from today, we're going to have our very first board meeting, and out of that will come a whole bunch of other things and directions and stuff that I can tell you about. That's enough out of me for now.
Hey, great, Neil, wonderful. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Explain what this is. British Columbia Societies Act Certificate of Incorporation. Sir, tell us what this is.
So this is a copy of the Certificate of Incorporation for the Serious Hope Society, which is the Cannabis Substitution Program. So a group of people have gotten together and they formed a directorship, and now they have a number, and so now we can start applying for government fundings and get things like permits, possibly get a location, collaborate in research, collaborate in opioid responses. So it's great news for us as a group. We're now a society, and that means we're all family.
Yeah, that's Chris Livingston there, one of our board of directors, with Suk Lee, another one. There's that certificate there. Very, very thrilled about all of that. Thanks to Jerry Provost for providing the video on that, and Debbie Hellion as well for some of her videos. Those two people are instrumental in getting our message across to us, and I really appreciate that. As I had mentioned, we had a meeting with the city to move forward into a storefront sometime in the not too distant future. As a society, I think we have a lot more leverage than we've had in the past 3 months prior to that in convincing people to rent to us. It's really a situation here in Vancouver. Just quickly with the CSP, it's all on donations. It's all by volunteers. It's an amazing effort by an incredible group of people that help us do this, that make it all possible. And we wouldn't have got to where we are without these people. There's a long list of people that have donated over the past 3 years, and I certainly can't give that list. But just this past Sunday, I want to thank Twisted Extracts, these products right here. Mary comes from back east in Nova Scotia to live here in Vancouver and wanted to be a baker for us, and she's been providing some amazing baked goods for us. Dorothy Potter, John Murray, of course, every Sunday comes with amazing edibles that are hot and nutritious for people. Michael the Cookie Monster, MZ Medibles, and I have to mention that at the same time here. MZ Medibles is part of putting on this particular event, and that's coming right up this Thursday. That's at 1024 Main Street. It'll go on from 2 to 8 p.m. right after the CSP. Actually, we wrap up the CSP right about 2 o'clock, and that's about 5 or 6 blocks up the street. So this is going on. It's a fundraiser for the CSP, as well as a good opportunity for people to get together. There's going to be a number of booths there, and there's going to be a lot of things available, a lot of good edibles for people. If you're looking for edibles, this is a great opportunity to get some and stock up a little bit. So come on out to that event that's coming up here on Thursday. Dirty Dave, Sweet Leaf, Apothecary Labs, 419, BC Bud Depot, and a mystery cream donator who I'm so sorry, but I'm not sure who it is that sent me those creams, and I can't seem to find it in my messenger list. And if you sent me creams and THC pain bombs, send me a message, and I'll apologize for not remembering who it was that did that, and I'll get you some credit on that. So that's what's going on with the CSP. We're gaining a lot of traction. This is going to be an amazing a year for us, but even just in the next few months, going to be some incredible movement forward with the CSP and the Serious Hope Society. Coming up also is a protest on Friday, being orchestrated by the Victoria Buyers Club, who've been putting on weekly protests at ministers' offices. And on Friday at Hetty Fry's office at 1030 Denman Street between 1:30 and 4 p.m. Come on down and let's be heard. Let's talk about the lack of access to medical cannabis and how important that is to people for all those reasons that we've been discussing on this show. The other big thing that's coming up, I don't know if this is going to be a thing, but I'm going to take my shirt off again because, 420 is coming. And that's a big event, and we're very thrilled with how it's all going with the organizing of it. We could use some help, as always. It's always a touch-and-go event. There's a lot of money that changes hands as we try to put this event on. For those of you who don't know, 420 is a non-profit society that was formed to organize this event. And so far, it's not been a money-making venture in any case, but it is a non-profit society, and it is something that has been very special over the last 26 years now, coming together and putting on this event, allowing for people to have access to an amazing array of cannabis products, all coming from the green market, none of it coming from the government licensed stores, so you can feel safe about the cannabis that you get there. And a great event to support, and a great event to be a part of. And it's not just 420 in Vancouver, it's 420 wherever you are, and I'm sure there's lots of other events going on, and we'll start to update you about some of those as we move forward. I think we're down to less than 70 days to go before the big event, and there's going to be lots of announcements coming up as to who's going to be part of the show this year. We're going to have Jeremiah Vandermeer back on as a guest and talk about the lead up to 420 and other things like that. So stay tuned for that and start making your preparations. You know, time flies fast. If you want to take advantage of the opportunity, we have booths for sale. They go on sale on February 15th, and there's a lot of other booths that you can just bring your booth. You can bring your tent, you can bring your table, and there's a lot of area there that people set up in. There's probably more booths that get set up that aren't part of the paid structure as there are that within the paid structure. And the ones within the paid structure, they get a slight advantage of being more in front of the stage, but it's just a slight advantage. And it's really that they want to get put on the map and things like that. There are some advantages to doing that. I'm not trying to discourage you from buying a booth in the paid structure. I'm just trying to say that the people that buy those booths are people that want to support the event, that understand that it takes a lot of money to pay for all the things that have to be paid for with 420, and they've helped us support that venture all the way along. So if you want to support 420 and you want to have the advantages of having a booth and what that brings, then like I say, February 15th is the day that they go on sale, and they don't usually last very long and they're sold out. And other than that, there's lots of other opportunities. Come on down, bring a table, bring whatever you want to make or bake or grow or provide for people in a safe manner. And we're going to have another awesome 420 at the beach at Sunset Beach this year. I want to thank Cannabis Culture for letting me use this space. I want to thank Neil for being my amazing producer. I want to thank my guests on the show today, 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. Check that out for coming down. Jerry Martin, and follow his trials and tribulations with the criminal justice system. And Howard Dejong from, harm reduction in general, but the different Vandu organizations and things that he's a part of, so much that he's a part of, I can't start listing. But I want to thank him for taking the time to come down and explain some of that to us and give us a glimpse into the lives of people that are struggling with pain and what's required to accomplish life with the serious, debilitating chronic pain. Very moved to have him on the show and giving us a glimpse into that. Also coming up on Pot TV, we have a lively week every week from Under the Influence with Greg Williams on Wednesdays. On Fridays, it's Jeremiah Vandermeer and Johnny B and other co-hosts with Cannabis Culture News Live. On Saturday, Boss Lissa with High Noon. And on Monday, it's Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal with the 420 Lifestyle Show. And next Tuesday, I'll be right here, and I'll see you again. I want to thank you all for watching the show. I hope you find something that inspires you a little bit and allows us to join together and move forward, demanding change that makes sense for the generations to come. And as you do that, have as much fun as you can.
Hello there, first-time viewers. Welcome to Pot TV. Welcome to Pot TV.
Let them go! 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 Let them go!
It is only now, once we've reached this point of critical mass, that I could really tell you the story, because that's the interactive nature of the internet.
Pot TV is an internet video-based site. We've had over 6 million shows watched. We get about 10,000 shows watched a day. Shows on growing marijuana, medical marijuana, politics of marijuana.
And at that time, most magazines or books revolving around marijuana were prohibited literature.
From cookbooks to grow books, books about the cannabis culture, mushroom books, even psychedelic books.
The mass injustice being done where millions of people in this country are being scapegoated, having their rights and their property and their leisure time and their privacy and their freedom of movement all stripped away from them.
And they pulled me off the line, and they pushed me down and put me in handcuffs, and they locked me in the patio.
This is what it's all about. A little green plant. You, the taxpayers, are being asked to subsidize a war on a little green plant.
I know it's scary and difficult and frustrating, and politicians are a fraud. Try and change that and be a voice of truth.
For many, many years, decades.
In 2001, Canada legalized marijuana for medical purposes.
Pot TV news flash breaking story, July 9th, 2003.
I became leader about 9 months ago.
You have how many locations and how long have you been serving the people of the community for?
Well, I started in 2004.
Because as long as you're not hurting anyone else, as long as you're not causing any harm, then why should you be dealing with police or prisons or agents of the government?
A former DEA agent and author of Powder Burns, Cocaine, Contras, and the Drug War.
In the media often, and the media reports uncritically all too often.
I saw this video and I was like, whoa, man, seems like there's something to this.
Join me weekdays on Pot TV.
We're going to be doing a new show here on Pot TV.
On Pot TV, Telling Our Hour combines poetry, music, art, video clips, and photographs with a variety of interesting guests who are involved in the medical cannabis movement.
Comes on air at 4:20.
Cannabis indica, or Indian hemp. It was tasted by the priests on sacrificial occasions.
So I'm gonna stop and smoke a joint. Just figured I'd show you my surroundings here. Beautiful, beautiful little flowers everywhere.
Hemp and its many applications, how hemp can be made into paper and fuel and clothing and that.
Two different samples. Now these are the same cut, grown in the same room with two different soil mixes.
As a line diagram, okay, and this is a cross-section of a bract.
Now on some of these plants too, there's something called pre-flowers that form. Sometimes 8 to 12 weeks into the veg cycle, you can look 3 or 4 sets of branches down from the top. Hey, wait a second, I'm not even smoking joints. I'm talking.
We need real cannabis dispensaries. Many patients who use cannabis as a medicine need access. You're taking the medicine away from sick and dying people.
Let's overgrow the government. Let's have more marijuana than they can ever stop.
But while you sit here enjoying this, remember those who are in prison this moment, locked away from their loved ones, locked away from their friends, and that could be you.
Just want to say thanks for watching Pot TV. You can't get higher on the net.